Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Fallout Season 2, Episode 3 video. There are a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references to the game, so we'll break it all down. We learn way more about Cooper's backstory and how that ties back around to Caesar's Legion and Macaulay Culkin's character and who he's playing on the show. There were so many theories about who he was playing when he was first announced for the show, but I was actually genuinely excited to see him come back to TV in a really big way. The episode title was The Profligate, which is a reference to the consequences of wasteful, immoral, and dissolution of behavior in the world of the Fallout franchise, particularly in Fallout New Vegas. Caesar's Legion calls enemies like the NCR profligate for their perceived decadence and lack of discipline, which Macaulay Culkin's character in this episode uses to describe Lucy when they capture her and the NCR characters that they're trying to kill off, those last two. This episode went way deeper on Caesar's Legion, mostly using them for some WTF comedic moments. They're an imperialistic slaver society in the games, living in the Mojave Desert around the New Vegas area. They model their society after the Roman Empire. The reason why they're called Caesar's Legion is because they were created by Edward Caesar Sallow, which they reference in the episode. He went by the Caesar nickname. His ultimate goal was to conquer the new California Republic and merge all their institutions and infrastructure with his powerful legions, creating a stronger empire. But by the events of the TV show, like years after the events of Fallout 4, because it's meant to take place after the events of Fallout 4 in the game's time, like after all the games, they're basically saying that a civil war brewed after the original Caesar's death. Now there are two competing factions, but this episode isn't meant to be the last time we see their group, like they will come back at some point later this season. That was why at the end of the episode, when Cooper winds up saving Lucy, he says he doesn't know if his incitement of their civil war is going to lead to good or bad things, like this could wind up being bad for all of us. Meant to also be a parallel for the B storyline in Maximus's story, where he theoretically thinks that he's started a civil war with the Commonwealth faction of the Brotherhood because he kills Harkness at the end of the episode, or thinks that he's killed him. There have been a lot of theories about his character secretly being a synth. We will talk about that later in the video. It would be a very big twist if the reason why he doesn't start a civil war is because if Harkness doesn't really die because he is a synth. It would also be very weird for them to cast someone as big as Kumail and then kill him off in the third episode. Like, he's not meant to be a Ned Stark character. I do think that Kumail will be back this season, which would imply that he really is a synth, or whatever happens, Maximus did not ultimately actually kill him. But the episode starts with Thaddeus, who's back from Season 1. We see he's continued to slowly turn into what seems like a super mutant. That's basically the biggest theory right now, that he's not turning into a ghoul, he's actually turning into a super mutant, and they tie in the FEV, the Forced Evolutionary Virus. There's a very quick blink-and-you'll-miss-it reference to the FEV later in the episode, which I think lends credence to the idea that Thaddeus is turning into a super mutant. They mostly use his storyline in the episode just to show how he's making do in the apocalypse, and even though it seems like things are bad for them, he's actually making the best of a bad situation. Like, they're all meant to be good people, fundamentally. They're not doing anything evil here. It's basically a glorified recycling facility where they're getting bottle caps, because bottle caps in the world of Fallout is used as currency. You also notice these are Sunset Sarsaparilla bottles from the games. Bethesda also sells these in real life. Like, this is an actual drink in real life that you can get. Also, a lot of jokes here about child labor and the old-timey notion that little kids once upon a time really did used to work in factories like this with questionable conditions. This time, the custom Fallout title is a bottle cap to reference the cold open, and we pick back up with Lucy in present day, who's been captured by Caesar's Legion along with the woman she helped save, and they're taking them to the current Caesar. All the football pads here as their armor is right out of the games.
Away, profligate.
We finally meet Macaulay Culkin's character. He might be the current Legate Lanus because he's wearing his mask from the games. That's what the special mask is meant to represent. Tells the woman she lost her legionary, killing her on the spot as punishment, RIP to her. Lucy then proceeds to tell them they're all idiots in like 7 different ways, and they use this for some WTF comedy. Basically her pointing out all the inconsistencies in their group, in their whole vibe. First, the joke about them mispronouncing Caesar as Kaiser, Lucy pointing out the major mistake that that's not Roman, you're actually going for something that's a little more German here. When she calls it a work camp here, that's just a nicer way of her calling it out as a slaver camp. The mention of Prima Noctis, also a callback to the woman she saved, telling her that she didn't want her to be sexually abused by the wrong people. Also, Lucy calls them out again for being terrible people and misusing that Latin phrase, which was actually a custom from the Middle Ages, and in the Middle Ages, they just made up the custom at that time, borrowing the Latin phrase to describe what they were doing. In the custom itself, Prima Noctis wasn't actually practiced in ancient Rome the way they think it was. Basically, Lucy just poking holes in all their inconsistencies, like, you guys have no idea what you're doing, like, none of this is consistent. And a lot of Season 1 callbacks as well, too. Like, she points out that she doesn't really qualify by the standards of prima noctis because she's not a virgin. She lost it on the first night of the show, like episode 1 of Season 1, when she mistakenly thought the Raider was her new husband she was supposed to get married to from another vault. And another joke about the cousin stuff, which they referenced earlier this season that she did with Chet. Another incest joke, which the show made recently with Vault 33 in the brother-sister couple who wanted to go full Game of Thrones twincest, Jaime and Cersei style. At the time in Season 1, Lucy brushed off the cousin stuff as being not a big deal when Chet got upset about her marriage, but here in Season 2, she actually plays it up a little bit more, making it seem like she and Chet went to third base all the time. Macaulay Culkin even seems a little impressed by that, like he's a little extra turned on by her now, even though he does string her up on the crucifix eventually. And even though a lot of the things that the group is doing, as Lucy points out, are not Roman traditions, crucifying people is a Roman tradition. When she tries to tell him that they've lost their way in the wasteland, it also seems like she's trying to set up a mutiny arc. Maybe Macaulay Culkin's character will emerge victorious and become the current Caesar, overthrowing the previous two ones as the factions both fight each other at the end of the episode. Kind of feels like you don't bring an actor as big as him onto the show without bigger plans for the character. When he mentions their ongoing conflicts with the New California Republic, the Khans, the Brotherhood of Steel, these are all things from the games. Like, they're all different factions that are fighting with each other, which Harkness also mentions later in the episode too, where he says if the Brotherhood were to fall, like the Commonwealth were to fall, there are way more factions out there that could be potentially worse. He then launches into the explainer about the civil war they're having after the original Caesar died and the two rose up with the competing factions fighting ever since. That's meant to be since the events of the New Vegas video game. Love Lucy's call out of the movie logic, like I've seen more than 15 movies, which also is to set up Cooper, the movie star, helping her out later in this episode, also reminding you of the Easter egg that he starred in a movie about ancient Rome. This storyline is meant to hold Lucy to task over the golden rule, like the whole episode is a theme on morality between Cooper and Lucy. What they want to show you at the beginning of the episode is they make it seem like Lucy was wrong and the Ghoul was right. The golden rule does not hold sway in the apocalypse now, but by the end of the episode, they bring it back around and make it seem like Cooper does want to be a good person. The good person he was before the war is still there inside the Ghoul that he is now. Also, basically the same thing with Maximus' storyline too, like on a smaller scale. Basically the same thing going on with him that happened with Cooper, where it seems like Maximus was getting more and more hardcore, getting darker, but ultimately still tries to do a good thing at the end of the episode, even though it leads to potentially something very bad happening. So when it comes to the whole theme of the golden rule in the series, it's meant to be a bit of a compromise, like they're both wrong and they're both right.
Conflict resolution, it's easier than you think.
This is also meant to play into the idea that Lucy and the Ghoul's morality will rub off on each other. Well, she'll become a little bit more morally gray by the end of the season, and he'll become a little more good by the end of the season, more like he was before the war, as he told Lucy in a previous episode. Like, I used to be just like you before the Great War. Then we go back to the hospital with the Ghoul, who finally drags himself out with the help of Dogmeat. There's a good boy helping out. Even though he is a Ghoul, he does still feel pain. His whole quote, "A boat is still a boat, even if you take out a plank," as he tries to extract the poison from his leg, is also meant to be a reference to the whole ship of Theseus problem, which is meant to show you that Cooper is a very educated person, which is why people underestimate him, because they just see the Ghoul and think he's this mindless freak. They also got into the ship of Theseus problem during WandaVision in the Marvel Universe. The whole idea is that the ship of Theseus over time kept getting repaired with new planks, new parts, so that over time less and less of the actual ship was the original ship from when it was first created. So even though ultimately none of the ship would be the original ship's materials, it would still be the ship of Theseus fundamentally. So Cooper, the Ghoul, in chopping himself up, so to speak, doesn't make him any less of the Ghoul. It's not changing his identity fundamentally. We also get a brief moment of him breaking, admitting to the loneliness he's felt all these past years in the wasteland, happy to finally have someone to talk to genuinely in Dogmeat. Thank you very much, Dogmeat. Also a callback to the movie A Boy and His Dog, which they referenced in a previous episode, which also partially inspired the entire Fallout game series in real life. We get another Cooper flashback to before the bombs, the Great War, with his wife crying, packing up their stuff in preparation to head to the shelters, I think to show that his wife is not a complete monster because she can't fit their daughter Janie's teddy bear in the box, and she's starting to break down emotionally because of what they're doing at Vault Tech. When Cooper says they might not have to go into the vaults, that's because of his recent conversation with Moldaver where she told him to kill Robert House, them thinking that that would stop him from dropping the bombs in the first place. But in this scenario, they still think, like the NCR still thinks that Robert House is the one who's going to drop the bombs initially. So we'll probably find that that is not the case. And there are a couple scenes with Robert House later in the episode that imply that that is actually what's going on, that we will find out, or Cooper will find out, that Robert House isn't the true evil that he should be worried about. One of my early competing theories, if we're talking about like who actually pressed the button to set the bombs off, like who the big reveal is going to be, wouldn't it make more sense if it's someone closer to Cooper, a bigger WTF twist, and it's like his wife is the person who actually pressed the button? That would actually make his turn in present day, post-apocalypse, why he's so cynical, make much more sense, so much more mad at himself for not being able to stop the bombs, if it did wind up being someone as close to him as his wife, and he wasn't able to stop that. I think we're going to find eventually that Cooper does blame himself for the bombs going off for one reason or another, depending on who actually did press the button. Like there's somebody in the past that he was not able to kill, and that is why the bombs went off. But this conversation is also to set up their pending trip to New Vegas in the flashbacks to take the platinum chip to Robert House, using that as his first opportunity, thinking that that will stop the Great War. When he mentions the thing for Charlie that he has to attend, this is for his former squad mate in the war, who's also part of the NCR, also setting up the meeting that he doesn't realize where he's actually talking to the Robert House. All the vets here, all of his squad mates, or most of them, it seems like, fought in the Sino-American War, the Battle of Anchorage in Alaska. That was a war with the communists long before the Great War. Also meant to tie back in with the storyline where they found the fake commies in the vault in present day. Notice the American flag during this point in the Fallout universe. Notice there are way fewer stars on it. Charlie then tells him about Robert House and prep for his mission, also to set the idea that he runs into him in the bathroom without realizing that it is Robert House.
What gave me away?
When Charlie points out that there are a lot of people that the veterans in the room here killed that weren't the right ones, that's also a reference to the Vault Tech board and the people who are actually evil, the people they should really be worried about, the real villains. Basically, corporate America are the villains in the Fallout universe. Also lending credence to the idea that Robert House is just one part of this, which Charlie calls out, and Robert House himself also implies that he is not the actual true villain here that everybody should be worried about. Really, they should be worried about the Vault Tech board. We get a speech from the Congresswoman from California calling out the evils of corporate America, basically saying that everybody else in the government except for her is on corporations' payroll, so everybody is dirty in the government, basically. Cooper then runs into the real Robert House in the bathroom, who lets on that he's like 4 steps ahead of everybody else, and he knows that both he and Charlie, like Cooper and Charlie, are part of the NCR when he calls them pinko commies. When he points out that he kind of agrees with the communist philosophy himself, he's also slightly letting on that he kind of agrees with the NCR in so many words, also confirming the theory that he, Robert House, is not ultimately the true master of evil this season. Which I think lends credence to the idea that it's going to be somebody else behind the bombs, which also is probably why Cooper ultimately doesn't kill him when he goes to New Vegas and meets him, realizing that the guy he met in the bathroom is the guy that he was sent to kill. One of the other big things about Robert House that they revealed this season, Mr. House, is Amazon said that Justin Theroux is playing the real Robert House from the games and not his brother Anthony House. There were a lot of theories about this, like what's going on because of the way the Fallout New Vegas video games ended. How are they going to reconcile all these multiple endings to the video games? The way that Amazon and Todd Howard talked about it, they're not going to trample on any of the alternate endings from the games, but they haven't said exactly how they're going to address this, only they're not going to trample on video game canon. What it seems like the show is doing is that the Robert House that we saw during Season 1, and we've also seen during some Season 2 scenes, will wind up being just the public face of the company that the real Robert House, who Justin Theroux plays, is using so that he doesn't have to show himself in public. Maybe they'll have some Easter eggs that'll tie back around to the endings, the multiple endings of Fallout New Vegas. We will see how they wind up reconciling this on the TV show. When Robert House mentions the multitudes of people being backed into a corner all trying to solve the same problem at the same time leading to bad outcomes, also meant to be a reference to the current Vault Tech administration in the plans for the bombs in the Great War. Basically, he's trying to let on that he knows what his mission is, that he's being sent to kill him in New Vegas, and he kind of agrees with the NCR, and he's not the real bad guy in so many words. Like he's trying to plant the seed here. We'll probably get more of this conversation when they do meet up in New Vegas at his casino. You just have to imagine that conversation. Look, I know what you're here to do. You're here to kill me, but I am not the bad guy. I'm not the real guy you should be after here. Basically, Robert House being the guy who knows everything, so he's 4 steps ahead of everyone, even here in the bathroom at this meeting, so far ahead of his trip to New Vegas. We go back to the Brotherhood at Area 51 in present day. The Codex they mention is a series of rules and tenets that the Brotherhood of Steel and its various chapters adhere to from the games that was created by the founder of the Brotherhood of Steel, Roger Maclean. The Brotherhood Civil War storyline is meant to be a comp for the Legion's Civil War storyline this season, like I said earlier in the video, also causing Quintus to tell the story of how Roger Maclean founded the Brotherhood in the first place. Here's where we tie back around to super mutants and Thaddeus' storyline in the episode. When he mentions the research center in California that Roger Maclean was sent to, it's a reference to the Force evolutionary virus, which I think now most of us believe that Thaddeus was dosed with in Season 1. Their alliance starts to fracture, prompting Maximus to suggest killing Kumail Nanjiani on his paladin Xander Harkness character, also setting up the end of the episode, and the reason why Quintus thinks that won't work is because it will lead to a civil war with the Commonwealth, and it'll be an even worse outcome, which Maximus also calls out at the end of the episode too. Like, I think that I just started a civil war.
I think I just started a war.
Like I said, there are a lot of people that think that Xander Harkness, Kumail's character, might be a synth because there is a Xander Harkness character in the games who does wind up being a synth, so we will see if they're actually adapting that part of the games. There would be no civil war if Xander is still alive, and he'd still be alive if he were a synth. He then does his best to try and sell Maximus on his own kind of mutiny, getting him to sell out his chapter, saying that it's bad, and the Commonwealth chapter is way better, because he's trying to get Maximus's help getting the fusion device. Basically telling him in so many words, if you don't give it to me, there will be a civil war, and potentially the Commonwealth might fall, leading to a way worse outcome because there are many other competing factions out there, and they're all worse than us. Like, rulership under them would be way worse in the apocalypse. There are many hot dog references from Kumail's character, like he references hot dogs several times in the episode, and they even end the episode with a song mentioning hot dog. Feels like a very big call out to the games. Doesn't everybody feel like going to get a hot dog now? We go back to the Cooper and Lucy storyline in present day, and he directly calls out her golden rule. Ironically, the resort he's at, the country club, is a location from the games. It's called Camp Golf. It's the House Country Club, which was owned by Robert House before the Great War. In the Wasteland, it was basically turned into an NCR base, but it's kind of defunct now. This is the same Victor Securitron robot from the games. Cooper remembers him. It seems like they've known each other for a while. We'll also probably see Victor in the flashbacks as well, too, in New Vegas. Robert House is the person who built all the Securitron robots. There are many of them patrolling around New Vegas, so we'll see way more of them when we actually go to New Vegas, both in the flashbacks and in present day. Victor mentions a lot of things that happened in the past during the flashbacks, particularly that Robert House wasn't behind the bombs, implying that he wasn't behind the bombs because he had not gotten the platinum chip or the fusion device yet, all which Cooper and his wife were supposed to take to Mr. House in the flashback. So a lot of people are like, well, if Mr. House didn't have those things, why would he have pressed the button to start the bombs? Like, he would have waited till after he had those things to actually set the bombs off. Just more evidence that it's going to wind up being some surprise person, some twist, who actually set the bombs off. When Victor says he wanted to live forever, Robert House wanted to live forever, that's also a reference to the Fallout New Vegas game. I already talked about how they're planning on reconciling, or maybe not reconciling. We will see how they deal with that on the show. Victor mentions the NCR Rangers in the hills, setting up the rest of the episode in the subplot where the Ghoul tries to save Lucy, selling them out, but then also trying to save the NCR by stabbing the Legion in the back. When Cooper goes to see the NCR Rangers and she mentions that he has long history with the NCR, that's his relationship with Moldaver before the Great War. Like, he was there for the founding of the NCR, like he was there at the very beginning of things. He also makes some jokes about this too to them, saying that time has not been kind to them. When she says that it's just been the two of them here and they've been cut off from the rest of their group for a decade, that's a callback to the Fallout New Vegas game. Like, ever since the events of the game, they've been cut off. She mentions the battalion at Shady Sands, again bringing things back around to the Hank flashbacks, what happened with Maximus's family from earlier, the other bomb that got dropped. She asks for Cooper's help in contacting them and wins him over with more vials, but the way they played, they make it seem, like I said, that he stabs them in the back by selling them out to save Lucy, doing something bad to do something good, which is meant to be a dovetail for Charlie's speech in the flashbacks at the Veterans Parade. With the added twist that he then tries to save the NCR by stabbing the Legion in the back, so ultimately he kind of does something good and something bad at the same time, so it's kind of a wash for him morally. but they do kind of want to show that even though he's being very pessimistic with all of his conversations with the NCR characters, with Lucy's character, he's still ultimately like there's a good person inside him trying to peek out, like trying to get out. There are also a lot of references to the Golden Rule, the whole idea of the Golden Rule with these conversations that Cooper has with the NCR and the other characters.
The story has it you used to believe in those things too.
Maximus and Harkness then detect some robot activity happening, and it winds up being Thaddeus's bottling facility. They put on the power armor, he pulls out a super sledge from the Fallout 4 game, which they also use for a big twist later, mentioning more hot dog references. Then, just like Cooper does, doing something bad to do something good, killing people to save someone, Maximus does something similar where he kills Harkness against the wishes of Quintus to save Thaddeus and his children, doing something bad like Cooper in order to do something good, and like Cooper says, his Legion Civil War plan might cause bigger problems later on, so too will Maximus killing Harkness potentially have dire consequences. If he's not a synth, then he really is dead, but I think we all believe that we're probably going to see Kumail in later episodes, and he will wind up still being alive. Also love the reunion scene right after this too, like big WTF moment, then they let some steam off with some comedy where they both recognize each other like, oh hey dude, how's it going? Haven't seen you in a while, what have you been up to? I think I just started a civil war. We get more flashbacks to Charlie's speech at the veterans meeting, and he starts talking about the problems that they have with the 45 power armor during the Battle of Anchorage. Cooper called this out during season 1 when he met Hank, basically saying that he lost a lot of his squad mates because there were defects in that model of power armor. Charlie then tells the story of how he saved Cooper's life during the war, having to kill a couple people in order to do it, doing something bad to do something good to tie in with the themes of the episode, and gives him the lighter, which we find out that Cooper still has in present day. He winds up saving Lucy, making it seem like he sold out the NCR to the Legion, who's been trying to kill off the remaining NCR members, but ultimately sets the bombs off to start a civil war, hoping, like at least Cooper's hope is that the factions will both kill each other, but saying that it might not end well, like who winds up coming out of this might be worse potentially than the situation we had before, where the Legion wasn't doing anything really because they were too busy fighting each other. Once somebody emerges victorious, probably Macaulay Culkin's character, he will actually be able to go after other factions. It will probably become a bigger problem later this season. When the Legion isn't busy fighting itself, they'll have more time to fight other factions. They also kind of made it seem like Macaulay Culkin's character is smarter than the current 2 Caesars, which is also potentially bad for Cooper and everyone else. They play that classic song with the hot dog line over the end credits to pay off all the hot dog references, which are also references to the games. When they reveal the bomb silo here, the Robco Industries is the company that Mr. House owns. As they travel out of the missile silo into the desert, they reveal the town New Vegas as we're about to head there on the show slowly, like we're getting there slowly. I think I kind of expected us to get there a little bit faster. One of the last episodes of the season is actually titled The Strip, so a lot of people were like, wait a minute, are we not getting to New Vegas till like the very end of the season? Hopefully they don't wait till the very last episode to actually get to New Vegas. But part of the idea is that we're traveling there in the flashbacks while we're also traveling there in present day. So like they're probably going to juxtapose the Vegas flashbacks with the Vegas stuff in present day. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below. And if there's any Easter eggs or references that you spotted for the games that I didn't talk about during this video, just write them below in the comments and I'll add them to my future bonus videos. What'll happen is my episode 4 video will post next week after they release it. And the really big reminder is that the Stranger Things finale, the very last episode of Stranger Things, is airing next. That'll be my next real big video, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. Everybody click here for that episode, and click here for all my other Fallout episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.